I'm the Deputy Director for Adult Programs here at Department of Social Services. Thank you all for coming to our EVV prototype demonstration meeting. And just a couple of housekeeping things to begin with. For those in the room, if you're looking for bathrooms, you can go out the back door, left and left, or you go out this door and straight down. Handouts, there's some handouts available for you, both in the room and on the website. And let's see, I guess that's kind of the housekeeping piece. As I said, the purpose of today's meeting is to demonstrate the EVV prototype tool and to get any questions and comments you have on the tool itself. So when we get to that portion of the meeting where we're taking comment and questions, we're going to ask folks for this meeting to focus it on the tool itself, because we want to get as much feedback as possible about the tool. If you have other comments about EVV in general, we always are accepting comment through our website or via mail, and there'll be other opportunities for that. So there will be 3 parts to today's agenda. The first part, I'm going to kind of do a recap of what we've done so far, because oftentimes we're having new folks join us at our public meetings, so we want everybody to know kind of where we're at in the process with with EVV. The second piece will be the demo itself, and the third piece will be to take comment and questions on the demo and the tool. Those 3 parts will all be posted on our website. Not immediately, but in the next week or so, we'll have that posted up there so people will be able to review it or see the demo again if they so choose or have interest. Okay. So I'm going to start with the recap. So electronic visit verification was a federal requirement to have all individuals that are doing personal care services or home health services under the Medicaid program to use an electronic visit verification tool. The initial implementation date was for January of 2019. That has, for personal care services, that has been changed by the federal government to January of 2020. There still is also the opportunity for the state to apply for a good faith extension that would be for another year, which the state is planning to be looking at doing that. And for the home health, it's January 2023 for implementation. The first phase that the state is looking at is, and what we will be demoing today, is for the IHSS and WPCS programs in the self-directed model. We're referring to that now as phase 1. There will be a second phase, which will be for all other programs doing personal care services or home health services, that will be referred to as phase 2. That's going to be led by the Department of Healthcare Services, and there will be a separate full stakeholder process associated with that phase. The first stakeholder meeting was held in October of this year, and so they will be working through that process. So so everybody's on the same page, this is for IHSS and WPCS self-directed today, and that will be the demo that we're seeing today. And also the demo that we're seeing today will focus on the online approach to EVV. We will be doing the telephonic piece next, and that will be a part of our spring stakeholder process. Okay, so I think I touched on the self-directed model for IHSS and WPCS phase 1. What we've done so far with stakeholders, So we actually began about a year ago with our public stakeholder meetings looking at EVV. The first meeting, we heard from folks around concerns, what they thought was important for the state to be looking at when considering implementation of EVV and the tools. We were getting ready to release a request for information to see what types of tools were out there already. Stakeholders gave us feedback on that request for information. We released that shortly after the stakeholder meeting, about November of last year. We received quite a few responses to that. We had another stakeholder meeting the beginning of this year, looking at those responses, sharing what we heard, getting further feedback. We did another stakeholder meeting talking about, based on all of the information that we had done, what the approach California was choosing to use to start this process and build a prototype. And then this one is our fifth stakeholder meeting. So each of those stakeholder meetings included about 200 to 250 people that participated. We've also done some smaller conversations with recipients and providers to hear in smaller groups direct feedback about EVV and what we needed to be considering when we were looking at building our tools to do EVV, the systems. And where we landed was some guiding principles and an approach, which is on our website as well for you to look at. The guiding principles that we had were that it needs to be consistent with federal law. We want to ensure that we're going to be meeting the requirements of the law, that it will be developed in collaboration with our stakeholders, that it will be developed in a manner that respects recipients and providers and does not alter their Olmstead protections and is as minimally burdensome as possible. EVV does not change the number of service hours or how or where services are provided to recipients. We will not be using geo-tracking or GPS as a part of our electronic EVV system. We are going to build on, and this was a big decision based on a lot of feedback from our stakeholders, we're going to build on our current tools, our current electronic timesheet tool and our telephonic system to meet the EVV requirements. And we're going to be doing that in conjunction with our current vendor that operates those systems. And everyone, once we develop these systems as a part of implementation, everyone will be provided training that will be utilizing these tools. So I also want to note a few other important things. So there will be three different options for utilizing EVV: online, telephonic, and then ultimately we'll also be creating an app, a mobile app. One of the advantages to utilizing our current electronic timesheet system is that we will still have all of the benefits that we have from that system today, which is when time and information is entered into that system, it provides prompts to the provider about potential errors to ensure that timesheets are done correctly. It also provides information as they're completing the timesheet about potential violations related to overtime, so that the individual has the opportunity to make corrections as they go, so that when timesheets are submitted, they're correct and can be processed for payment, and that they aren't rejected and ending up starting over the process. So providers can get through that process and get to payment more quickly. Ultimately, EVV will be eliminating paper timesheets. So once EVV is fully implemented, individuals will either be using the online tool or a telephone tool or the app, We will no longer be utilizing paper timesheets. So one of the questions that we've gotten is, will I have to do both? Will I have to do regular timesheet, paper timesheet, or an electronic timesheet and EVV? No. You will use the EVV tool and payments will be made through the information entered into that tool, either online or by phone. One of the important things also to mention is that for the recipient, they will always have the option to either approve timesheets via phone or online. So if their provider is submitting online timesheets, the recipient can either approve online or they can approve by telephone. Same thing if the provider is choosing to use the telephonic system, the recipient can choose to approve online or approve by telephone. So it will give that flexibility to the recipient in being able to use whichever system they're most comfortable with to do their approval. So that kind of gives us a little bit of information about where we're at so far. We also want to share a little bit of information about kind of an overarching timeline. So we went through the stakeholder process last year, landed on this approach, and now in this year, between this last July and next June, we're going to be building our prototypes. We're going to develop an online prototype and then our telephone scripts for how the telephone will work when someone calls in to enter their information via telephone. So this first 3 months or so, we've been working with a vendor to develop the online prototype, and that's what you're going to be seeing the demonstration of today. We will begin now starting to develop our telephone scripts. And in the spring, we will be coming back and meeting with all of the public stakeholders again to show the telephone scripts as well as the updated online prototype based on comments that we receive now. So there'll be a second full comment period. And then hopefully we'll have a prototype in both the telephone and online ready for next July to start doing our piloting and preparing for implementation. As a part of that, just so you're aware, as a part of these this feedback process now and in the spring, we're going to be doing a number of sessions, this large one with the public, but also smaller ones with recipients and providers in different regions of the state, with both of our unions, SEIU and UDW. And so we're going to offer multiple sessions to try and get really comprehensive feedback on the tool itself. The other thing that will be happening starting at the beginning of 2019 is, aside from developing the tools and sharing that with stakeholders, we also are going to be starting to look at how we're going to implement once the tools are ready, once the systems are ready. And so we will be starting to develop that implementation plan, and that will be done in conjunction with stakeholders as well. Our overarching approach to that is to do it similarly to how we implemented electronic timesheets. And we're looking at that approach because it seemed to work well for recipients and providers. And it was a combination of multiple ways of doing outreach and training, including in-person trainings, webinars, webcasts through YouTube, and mailers and handouts and flyers. So it's a variety of different ways to try and ensure that people are trained and have what they need in order to use the electronic visit verification systems. once they're ready. And we'll do that in a phased rollout, meaning it's not going to be one day everybody in the whole state starts using electronic visit verification. It'll be a very slow rollout with smaller groups at a time, so that we ensure that everyone gets enough support for this transition. So that kind of gives you a highlight of where we've been and what our schedule is for moving forward. And so the next piece of what we're going to do now is to show you the demo. Again, this is for the online tool for those individuals who choose to enter their information online. This is not the telephone piece. That'll be next time. And we're going to walk you through that. And then we'll be taking questions and comments around that after we're done with the demo.